In this class we're going to look at the law of diminishing marginal utility, probably better known as the law of diminishing returns. This law truly belongs in economics, but it's quoted widely in other subjects. But I suppose its background truly belongs with economists. Let's have a look at where we start from. The law states that the more we have of a commodity, the less we value an additional unit of it. Okay, so the more you have of something, the less you want some more of it. It's impossible to measure and be objective about utility, so we're going to have a few words about utility, but we're just using this idea of utility to illustrate a wider principle here, that the more we have of something, the less we want some more of it. So we use utility to illustrate this. The utility we experience from consumption of a particular commodity, I suppose, is psychological. It resides in our head. It's evaluated subjectively. It's not objective. We can't agree on it. You might like something, perhaps some foodstuff, that I totally reject. I dislike it intensely. You get a lot of utility from that item. I get absolutely no utility. So it is subjective. It is psychological. Excuse me. We evaluate utility differently according to all sorts of factors. For example, our social status, our education, our income, neighbourhoods, friends, work, family background, upbringing, advertising, trends, fashions, all sorts of things influence how we view particular commodities. We can't make interpersonal comparisons of utility because of the intensity of feelings, and these can't be measured and compared. You might like something, but I really like it. Now we can't add those two together. We can't say both of us like it equally because of the intensity of the feelings. So when we're dealing with utility, there are many issues to take account of. The concept of marginality is used extensively in economics. This one it's one of the central planks of neoclassical economics. Neoclassical economics is the sort of economics you study at most universities and colleges. It's the type of economics typically we get in textbooks. It's about diagrams and graphs and interpretation of statistics and bits of mathematics, and so it's the type of economics we deal with mostly. And neoclassical economics tends to emphasize rationality and quantification, measurement and rational, logical, maximizing behavior. Marginal utility is the change in the total utility resulting from the consumption of one more unit of the commodity. Okay, let's have a look at a table that illustrates that. Now here's a table showing the consumption of cheese sandwiches. Let's say everyone eats cheese sandwiches, pretend. I know not everybody does, but just for this example. Now, if you have one cheese sandwich, you might get 200 units of utility, 200 utils. Okay, so that's okay. Now, number two, if you have two sandwiches, your total utility will have gone up to 250. In other words, let me just put the cursor onto the page. Here you go. Now, total utility is now 250. So the marginal utility, the change in the total utility, because of the second unit, is 50. So the second sandwich has given you 50 units of utility, 50 utils, U-T-I-L-S, utils. The first sandwich gave you 200, the second one only gave you 50. If we have a third sandwich, our utility might remain the same, in which case the change in the total utility, going from 2 to 3, this change, well, there isn't a change. So it's 0. The fourth sandwich only gives us 100 units of utility. You know, the fourth sandwich has made us ill. The fourth sandwich is far too much. We feel nauseated, overfull. Ooh. So our utility, our marginal utility from the fourth unit is minus 150. Our pleasure has fallen by 150 units. It's gone down. We've overdone it. So, going from 1 to 2, we had 50 extra utils. The first one gave us 200. The second one gave us 50. The third one gave us nothing. No utils. No units of utility. No units of pleasure. The fourth one made us ill, so we actually lost utility. If we were to imagine that diagrammatically, it might look something like this. We have, along the horizontal axis here, we have the number of cheese sandwiches consumed. Up here we have the marginal utility. Down here we have marginal utility in the negative. So if we have 2 cheese sandwiches, we'd get 50 utils. The third one gives us nothing, this point here. The fourth one makes us ill. We lose 150 utils. That's exactly as the table has told us. The fourth one gave us minus 150 and the third one gave us 0. So that's the idea behind the diminishing marginal utility. Now let's look at taxation as an illustration of this one. Suppose that we take £1 sterling from a millionaire and give it to a very poor person. So we're taking £1 from a very rich person and giving it to a very poor person. The millionaire won't miss the £1 so much, but the poor person will be very happy to receive it. So the rich person loses something quite small to him or to her, loses £1, and the poor person gains £1. We may reason as follows. The millionaire will lose 50 utils because the millionaire has got a lot of money. So the pleasure from that £1 is very small. The more you have of something, the less pleasure the last unit gives you. So, taking £1 away from the millionaire hardly notices it, only loses a very small amount of utility, a very small amount of pleasure by being £1 poorer. So the millionaire loses 50 utils. However, the poor person gains, let's say, 200 utils. So, the millionaire loses 50, the poor person gains 200. In terms of a little table, a little account, if you like, a utility account, what we've got here is the millionaire is down 50, the poor person is up 200. So overall, the society has benefited by 150 utils. Therefore, taxing the rich and giving it to the poor seems to be a good idea, according to this. So we're using the theory to try and explain taxation. The benefits of what we've just done. In the redistribution of wealth, it means that redistributive taxation is desirable. You take from the rich and you give to the poor. And that way society in total is better off. So, looks like the idea wasn't perhaps all the way down to economists. Perhaps other people got in on the act. However, there's always a however in economics. There's always a downside, and here we go. However, what if the millionaire really loved money? and the loss of the pound caused them great anxiety and pain. What if the millionaire really loved money? The millionaire was a miser, absolutely loved money. What if? What if the millionaire valued the pound at 1,000 utils, 1,000 units of utility, 1,000 units of pleasure? So he lost 1,000 utils, and a poor person only gained 200 utils. What if? Well, our table would look different. The millionaire is down 1,000 utils, and the poor person is only up 200 utils. So overall, society is worse off. Perhaps we should take from the poor and give to the rich. Seems a bit strange, but well, that's the logic of it. I suppose the problem really rests with this idea that we can't measure utility. The logic seems straightforward. The more you have of something, the less you want an additional unit. So go back to the millionaire. The millionaire has got £1 million in the post office or in the bank or wherever, under the bed. So the millionaire has £1 million. You take £1 from the millionaire. The millionaire doesn't value that £1 because it's got so much of it. The poor person values it a lot. That's the logic behind redistributive taxation. But we can't prove it. It could be, as we've got on the slide here, the millionaire loses 1,000 utils and the poor person only gains 200. The problem is utility is not measurable. It's not objective. So although it's sort of reasonable, we can't prove it. It's ultimately subjective. It's your opinion versus my opinion. And we can't prove this. We just have to agree, perhaps if we dispute it, we have to agree to differ. We can't prove it objectively. Maybe common sense should prevail in this debate. Problem with common sense is it should prevail whatever it is, and maybe your idea of common sense and my idea of common sense may also differ. So perhaps the differences between us might be significant. Okay, that's an overview of the law of diminishing marginal utility. What we should have got out of this is understanding the idea of marginal and understanding how this particular law gives us some sort of insight into our own consumption patterns, why we consume, and also into this idea of redistributive taxation and how the law can be used in that case, in that way. Okay then, thanks for watching.